Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 915 for the 19th of April 2026. Richard Saunders coming to you from Sydney, Australia. The weather is turning. It's getting a little bit cooler. How do I know? Because the Skeptic Zone cats, Henrietta and Maud, like to sit in laps more and more as the weather gets cooler. I had to kick them out of the studio just now. They wanted to sit in my lap. What's coming up on this week's episode of the Skeptic Zone? More UFOs. More Westall 1966. You might remember last week we had the story covering some of the rude and nasty comments left by trolls and people like that after my appearance on television talking about the Westall UFO of 1966. This week there is a follow-up, more discussion about that, centering around wind direction. It'll make sense once you hear it. It's an ill wind, or is it? Find out more at the top of the show. Following that, it's Woo Watch with Kate Thomas, and I chat to Kate about Botox. Now, Botox can be used to relieve migraines. Kate's using Botox. Why is she using Botox? Following that, it's a real blast from the past, talking about UFOs and things from space and SETI and asteroids. I joined Stefan Sojka, the original co-host of the Skeptic Zone. I joined him in the year 2001. 25 years ago, when Stefan had a program over at NetFM, one of the world's first internet radio stations. We had a regular segment called The Skeptic Tank, and I go in to chat about the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, asteroids, and we're joined on the line by Professor Colin Keay, who was a professor of astronomy. And it's interesting to note, of course, that we were talking about aliens and things like that 25 years ago, and nothing has changed. We still don't know if they're out there. They probably are out there, actually, but we still don't know for sure. We don't know where they are, how far they are away, or anything like that. We're still looking. A young Richard and a young Stefan from 25 years ago. Then to round off the show, I'm joined by a special guest readers for the Trove segment, Kat McLeod, of course, who you've heard on the Trove segment before and you hear on the Skeptic Zone, and our dear friend and colleague, Ross Blocher. And, of course, you will remember Ross from the many happy hours of Oh No, Ross and Kerry, the show that did things so you didn't have to. Now they join me to help in reading this week's Trove segment about UFOs and weather balloons. Now, in the past week, I had the great pleasure of going to see Dr. Karl Kruszelnicki give a free public talk about 30 years in science communication. And of course that reminds us, and I'll play a promo later in the show, that Dr. Karl will be appearing at Nauticon. Now this is a venture between the Skeptics Guide to the Universe Rogues and the Australian Skeptics. It's on 23rd to 25th of July here in Sydney. Tickets, as they say, tickets are selling fast. Some tickets are already sold out. And of course, as we've mentioned on the show recently, if you're a secondary or tertiary student, you can apply for a scholarship. There are 5 full scholarships valued at $350 or 20 partial scholarships valued at $200. It's worth entering. Go to skeptics.com.au. There's a link right there on the homepage where you can apply for a scholarship. And that represents a huge saving, especially in these uncertain times. If you know a secondary or tertiary student who would like to come to Nauticon, direct them to that page. A big shout out to my teacher friends who very soon will be getting back to it. And what an important job they do. Underrated and underpaid. Support your local teacher. Anyway, now it's time for me to run downstairs and maybe try a macaroon or a macarena or a macona. Something like that. While I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. Oh, those UFOs. They just won't go away. Following on from last week where I mentioned that I was on the television program Australian Story to comment about the Westall 1966 UFO case and read out some very rude comments, I thought I'd do a follow-up expanding on certain aspects of the story. Now, the 6th of April 2026 marked the 60th anniversary of the so-called Westall UFO event. Briefly, an object described as about the size of a car and as either being white, silver, silver-green, grey with purple hue and or purple lights appeared in the sky near Westall High School in Victoria, was seen by between 100 to 300 students and some teachers at about 11 a.m. Reports vary, but some say it, or they, as there are reports of up to 3 objects, was accompanied at some point by up to 5 light aircraft that seemed to follow it. 2 witnesses claim the object landed briefly in a field nearby, but this cannot be verified. There are more details easily found online, but the true nature of the event is still a mystery. The day is held up as strong evidence of an alien spaceship by those who believe we are being visited. I was invited by the ABC TV to appear on Australian Story to give my thoughts and speculate what the object might have been that day to cause such a stir, as well as being asked to give an overview of the fragility and unreliability of human memory. I put forward possible candidates, like the weather balloon that was launched that morning from Laverton Bureau of Meteorology, 34 kilometres to the west and 9.5 kilometres to the north, and the highball atomic radiation detecting program of the time, which saw classified balloons being launched in Victoria. A clip of me saying it is still a mystery was used in the promos, but not on the program itself. As mentioned last week on the Skeptic Zone, the feedback via YouTube page has been sadly predictable, with comments such as, and here are a select few: Richard Saunders makes a complete fool of himself. Richard Saunders from Australian Skeptics Inc. is a professional skeptic. In other words, he makes money by not believing in things and rationalising away people's experiences. Of course, we need loser skeptics to dissuade us into listening. People like this should never be interviewed. At this point, it's skeptics who sound like the tin-foil hatters. Don't you just hate the skeptics? I cannot stand these arrogant idiots. That skeptic dude is a dumb ass, ha-ha. Was that Richard? I cannot think of anything worse than these poor people having their stories co-opted by the Skeptic Society. I hope he lives long enough to see disclosure. There is something strange about Richard Saunders' accent. Could you not find a less imbecile skeptic? Richard Saunders is just scared. If I was invited to dinner with old mate from the Skeptic Society, I'd just jump off a bridge instead. With regards to the skeptic, he would struggle to make a distinction between a vagina and a penis in front of his face. I'm glad they added the weather balloon ape after the actual witness descriptions. And this just goes to remind us that people put amazing stock in witness accounts, especially given a sympathetic storytelling. Now, for these comments, it's disconcerting and reminds us of the hate in what I'm sure is only a very small percentage of the alien spaceship believer crowd and some trolls. At least this has given me something to add to my public talks. Being called an ape is new. Many people were compelled to write and blast me owing to the weather balloon possibility. For example, weather balloon ape. One said, "As stated in this video, there is no evidence that supports a weather balloon hypothesis. The wind was blowing in the opposite direction from where the so-called weather balloon was launched." Why was this person so sure? After my comments about the weather balloon and Occam's razor at the 20-minute 8-second mark of the program, researcher Shane Ryan appears, dramatically looks over the Age newspaper from the day of the event and says,
When I looked into the weather data for that day, it actually didn't stack up at all. The winds, as predicted and as reported, actually blew in the opposite direction.
Something irked me about that. The opposite direction from Laverton Bureau of Meteorology to Westall would have had a balloon travelling west, not east. So I checked. The prevailing winds as predicted on the day and was reported in the Age newspaper did blow in the right direction, predominantly from the west towards the east, for a balloon to be carried from Laverton Bureau of Meteorology at 8:30 a.m. to reach Westall by 11 a.m. or thereabouts. The winds were forecast to be strong and gusty, which, together with the balloon going to higher altitudes and encountering different winds, could explain it being pushed southeast and ending up at Westall and moving in an erratic manner. And this is taken from the Age newspaper on the morning of the event, April the 6th, 1966. Forecast for that day was Port Phillip Bay, fresh to strong and gusty west to southwesterly winds. City, cold and strong and gusty west to southwesterly winds and showery periods. Shane Ryan, saying the winds were blowing in the, quote, opposite direction, end quote, was simply wrong, and gave viewers the impression that the balloon would have been travelling west from Laverton Bureau of Meteorology. The story was reported the next day in the Age newspaper as, quote, object perhaps balloon, end quote, complete with the wind direction, that being westerly, i.e. from the west to the east. And here is the report from the Age on the 7th of April 1966. Object perhaps balloon. An unidentified flying object seen over the Clayton-Moorabbin area yesterday morning might have been a weather balloon. Hundreds of children and a number of teachers at Westall School, Clayton, watched the object during morning break. They said a number of small airplanes circled around it. However, a check later showed that no commercial, private or Royal Australian Air Force pilots had reported anything unusual in the area. The Weather Bureau released a balloon at Laverton at 8:30 a.m. and the westerly wind blowing at the time could have moved it into the area where the sighting was reported. The irony of being called by more than one commentator a, quote, disinformation agent, end quote, is quite striking, when it seems it was someone else who gave a misleading account. I stated on Australian Story that the weather balloon is a very likely candidate, not that it was the answer. While it still leaves important questions unanswered and might only explain part of the events of that day and might be eliminated in the future, it cannot be written off yet as the alien spaceship believers want or need it to be. Researcher Charlie Weiser favours a highball balloon, and his findings make for interesting reading on many aspects of the case, including the inconsistent and changing accounts over the years. And there'll be a link to that site in this week's show notes. I also note that in every single UFO case ever, when the truth of the sighting has been discovered, the answer has never been an alien spaceship. My final plea is that if there are any official files under wraps about the weather balloon, highball, aerial training with a target drogue, a military aerial vessel, or an alien spaceship, then after 60 years it's time the details were revealed, if only for the sake of the children of the day. Well, there we go. And those weather references are publicly available. You can look them up, and they say exactly what I said in this report. And people have been asking me which version of events or which possibility I favour. It's really difficult because, as I keep telling people on the YouTube comments, I wasn't there and neither were you. The balloon of some description, be it a weather balloon or be it the balloon from Operation Highball, does seem to be a very likely candidate, one or the other. Is the truth out there? Will we ever know? I don't know, but one day I hope we do. Wacky woo that's worth watching. It's Woo Watch with Kate Thomas. Oh, Kate Thomas, what a pleasure it is to be once again in your studios.
Hi, Richard. How are you?
Okay. They promised 30 degrees today. I don't know if it is 30 degrees, that it's summer's still hanging on, isn't it?
It doesn't feel quite like 30 degrees to me, but it's certainly got the humidity.
Yeah. I think I should call this the humid zone, not the skeptic zone.
That's right.
Sometimes.
The sweat zone.
Oh, no. The skeptic zone.
There you go.
That's right. Now, just lately, because I am one of your stalkers, of course, on TikTok.
Love that.
What's Kate done today? And a little while ago, you were telling people about your upcoming Botox adventure, and I must admit, it is something, me personally, I have never considered.
Never considered Botox? No.
I heard about it. People get it done. But you did.
I did.
You did.
I did get it done. So I fell for the, I suppose it's vanity, because I'm certainly not having it. People have Botox injected for sweating or for overactive bladder. So there are a number of
Overactive bladder?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there's a number of legitimate medical reasons why you would have a Botox injection. I've just had it in my forehead, and I'm a convert.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
Now, I know some people have it done, and I think it originates from migraines, if I'm not wrong.
So people have it injected for migraines because it relaxes the muscles, and I don't know. So our dear friend Annie McCubbin uses it for migraines, and she doesn't seem to think it has a huge impact, but perhaps for some people it does, and it's that, anything to reduce the frequency or severity of a migraine, I imagine, would be.
Have you ever suffered from migraines?
So I have, and the reason I know that I have is because a migraine is a very specific. It's not a headache. It's got a specific mechanism, and there are medications that only work if you're having a migraine.
Interesting.
And my mum, actually, when she was in her 40s, she's probably perimenopausal, she would have debilitating migraines.
Yeah.
And over the last 10 years, I would have these, mine were not debilitating in any way, but I would have a pain in my head, and I would think, I'll take 2 Panadol, and then think, no, I've still got this, I'll take 2 Nurofen, and then sort of go on like this for a bit. And then it occurred to me once to try Immigrant or sumatriptan or zolmitriptan or one of those kind of medications, and it was gone within 10 minutes.
I got them around about the age of 12, and the first one I had came at night. And, talk about the horror stories from your lived experience for a 12-year-old boy who doesn't know which way is up anyway, to wake up in pain you cannot describe to anybody else and vomiting everywhere. Well, that's brought the show down. I'll give it to that. But all those people out there who suffer migraines know what I mean. And they decreased. Past my mid-20s, they started to decrease. To now, if I get 1 or 2 a year, that's about it.
Yeah. Some people suffer terribly. There's a whole range of new medications and injections and, targeted therapy. So I think treatment's come a long way, but no terrible. So no, I'm not having Botox for any good reason other than to smooth out my forehead. And
well, looking at you now, I think
isn't it smooth?
Very
Doesn't
smooth.
it look smooth?
My goodness.
So nobody can see this, but I'm going to attempt now to frown at Richard.
All right.
See how I can't?
Let me know when you're starting.
I'm sorry.
You can't do it because you're giggling.
I can't.
But your forehead does not.
So I can't crease. I can't crease this area here.
Yeah.
But I can still raise my eyebrows.
You can. On the side, I can notice a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas previously, when I had done that, it would have creased my entire forehead. Now it's just a little bit of wrinkling on the side. Look, it's very silly. It's a very silly thing to do. However, I guess if it makes me happy, that's all that matters.
Well, yeah, you've got a good reason to do it.
No, I don't.
You're pleased. No, you don't.
No, I don't.
Well, if you want to do something. But you're pleased with the results. And,
I am
and
pleased,
from
yeah.
where I'm sitting here looking at you, it just looks like you've got a smooth forehead.
Yes. So I didn't. I went in to the clinic and I said, this is my first time, and they asked me what kind of look I was after, and there's anywhere from the frozen look,
Really?
and then all the way down to So I had the probably barest minimum
Yeah.
of units, so they
Yes.
put in a certain number of units, and yeah.
Wow.
I know, it's really good. I'll be on all the injections soon. Next time we talk, I'll be like, oh, Richard, I'm doing peptides.
Well,
I'm not doing peptides.
people often, well, I shouldn't say often, but people have mentioned to me in the past few years, they say, if you just get a little bit of that special shampoo, you can dye your hair to look darker and darker.
Yeah.
And every now and then it crosses my mind, and then I think,
don't do it.
I mean, some people do it, and it looks fabulous. But for me, I guess I've been going grey for so long. I started going grey in my late 20s, for heaven's sake. So it's...
So don't judge me, people listening. I'm about to say something very contradictory to... Anyway, I'm just going to say it. I have just told you how, for vanity, I have had Botox. So I guess I'm just putting that out there as if to say I've got not a leg to stand on about what I'm about to say.
Yes.
Which is, I went out with some of my girlfriends last night from school. So we've known each other since we were in year 4.
Wow.
So only a couple of years. And
Was that last century?
and we went out for dinner, and it was so nice. And you are seeing me, so I don't dye my hair anymore either.
Right.
But I have dyed my hair for a long time in my life. But I have just in the past, I would say 6 months or a year, just decided not to bother.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just another form of vanity, really. So I've decided to let that one go, and I've picked up Botox instead. Similar cost. And anyway, but I was out with my girlfriends, and I was thinking, they're all still dyeing their hair.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder why. I guess it's how you see yourself.
A lot of people do.
A lot of
do.
women do.
Yeah,
I think men are allowed to give. I think men are allowed to just age normally, but a lot of women do. And actually, dyeing your hair is great fun.
Nothing wrong with it.
No, nothing wrong. No, absolutely nothing wrong with it. No, I was just out there thinking. So last night at dinner, I was just thinking. I wonder why we're persisting with it. And like I say, I understand I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth because I have just admitted to having the injection. So
If it makes you feel comfortable and good,
sure. I mean,
all in favour of it.
my 92-year-old mother-in-law is still dyeing her hair.
Well, there you go. It occurred to me, folks listening who know the TV series, the best TV series ever made, of course, Blake 7. You familiar with that TV show?
No.
You're not?
How have I missed that?
Goodness me. Okay, so this was a space adventure,
Oh.
a British space adventure from 1979 to 1981, roughly that era. And the main villain,
Yes.
the evil villain, was a woman called Servalan.
All right.
And she sort of looks like you a
Brilliant.
little bit. If you dyed your hair jet black, but she was the best villain you could ever wish for.
I much prefer it when people say I look like Annie Lennox. Just
You know what? Mm-hmm. It hadn't occurred to me until now, but there you go.
so when I was scalp bleaching my hair white, it was a lot more obvious. my close genetic relationship with Lennox.
So finally, I guess the word from you is if someone out there might want to try Botox for whatever
try
reason.
it. Why not? I mean,
give it a go.
wears off after 3 to 4 months, so it's not like it's it's not a tattoo. So
No.
I wouldn't give too many thoughts towards it. I mean, I guess there are risks involved in injecting anything, so just make sure you're aware of the risks, and if you're happy to take the risk, then do it. Why not?
Why not? Not exactly woo this week, but
No woo.
Always a pleasure to catch up with Kate, and always so wonderful to be in your studio.
Thanks, Richard.
G'day, Dr. Carl here, letting you know that I will be appearing at NotAcon 2026 from July 23rd to the 25th at the Sydney Masonic Centre. What is a NotAcon? Well, it's not a convention, but it sort of is, sort-of-ish, kinda. It's an interactive festival of ideas and games and audience participation by the Australian skeptics and the whole crew from the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, which is the #1 skeptical podcast from the USA. The tickets are selling fast, with some types having already sold out. So jump onto notacon.com or skeptics.com.au to find out more and book your place while you still can. Bring your brain, bring your mates, and I'll see you there. Peace, love, mung beans. Bye.
Way back in the dim, dark days of 2001, I had a regular segment with Stefan Sojka, my old friend from many, many years ago, on NetFM, one of the internet's first radio stations. I would go in, normally with other skeptics from the committee at the time, and chat about, well, whatever we wanted to chat about. This time, we were talking about SETI, asteroids, and we're joined on the line by Professor of Astronomy, Colin Keay.
There it is, and it's a wonderful afternoon to Mr. Richard Saunders from the Australian Skeptics. In fact, he's the president. Good afternoon, Richard Saunders.
Good afternoon, and thanks for the red carpet this time. Fantastic.
Ah, well, now that you're president, we organise everything we got.
I mean, I'd rather have a chair, but the red carpet will do. Okay.
On your knees. All right, so welcome back to another Skeptic Tank.
Thank you. Great to be here in the tank.
It's a wonderful place to be.
It is.
How's it going this week in the week of Skeptics?
Oh, the week of skeptics has been it's been a big week, but every week's
Every big's week. I mean, every week's week. So tell us any latest sort of news or freaky things have been happening. People trying to rip people off or convince people that they've seen God and talking to aliens.
Well, that happens every day.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Let me tell you, we're going to be talking soon to a professor of astronomy who can tell us all about this asteroid that didn't quite hit us yet. It might hit us later, or I don't know what it's going to do. So we'll find out all about that soon. But I went to a very interesting talk last week, or was it the week before? I keep forgetting.
Mm-hmm.
A guy from... That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
No, not just recently. A guy from the SETI Institute.
Oh, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence.
And fascinating talk. And he was telling us what sort of message they would send to the extraterrestrials if they received the message in the first place.
I'd say the message would be, it's Mac time, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, apart from the obvious message.
Or things go better. Yeah, a big M, a big gold nugget, or things go better with Coke, perhaps. Okay, so what have they decided?
Well, that's an interesting thing. So imagine you're sitting there at the SETI, playing cards or whatever, bored out of your skull because you're not...
Yeah, and haven't seen up 100 years.
Suddenly you get... the space message comes through.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, you get over
what
the
hell did... Yeah.
And then you've got a couple of interesting things to think about. One is you check for where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
And they check, and that came from star XYZ.
Yeah.
And that's 2,000 light years away. Okay.
if we put out a message, it'll take 2,000 years to get there.
That's right.
What are they going to say? Like,
Well,
who's there?
Oh,
Hello?
hello. Message comes back. Sorry, can you repeat that?
2,000 years later? Yeah, okay.
Okay. What's the weather like? Exactly. Thank you, management.
Thank you, management. Yes?
Okay, that's the first thing they have to worry about. But
Yeah.
then again, it might come from a planet that's 100 light years away.
Or a ship that's just hovering above New York.
Well, who knows?
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
With
so
big lizard creatures.
we'll send the men in black after them.
Okay.
The second thing they have to think about is, okay, we've received this message. It's going to take 300 years or whatever it is to get back. But let's send something anyway.
Yeah.
What do you send?
What do you send? What language do you send it in? Has to be a musical thing. I think you'd send
You have
a
to
little
music.
tune. You'd send a tune because you figure that most creatures, even on this planet, have developed ears. So if DNA has a tendency and evolution has a tendency to create ears because as a protection mechanism, then you'd probably do something musical.
Well, ears only if the people, the extraterrestrials have evolved on a planet with an atmosphere with
Where sound can
sound
travel.
can travel.
Yeah.
Maybe they live under some sort of ocean.
Maybe they live inside rocks.
Maybe they do, like Star Trek.
Yeah. And they travel, well, actually within rocks.
Within rocks.
Within rocks.
This is like Star Trek.
Oh, this is getting very scary.
So they're not sure what to send back or how or what sort
Have
of.
they made any decisions at all on this at the moment?
Well, basically, they're looking at sending back something in a pulse of laser.
A laser pulse.
They can send more information.
Oh, great.
on
And
radio.
just kill them all.
That's right.
Kill them all.
But probably some sort of binary message, some very basic pictures.
Morse code, do you think they
Oh,
they
yeah,
would-
Morse code.
Well, I suppose if they were smart creatures, they could learn it quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
But if they're smart enough to send something
Yeah.
and smart enough to receive it,
You figure they're probably smart enough to...
I think there's a good chance that they can at least make some sense out of something we send, and vice versa.
Yeah, yeah. Well, or they could send something back that was a map, and we could be really stupid and think it was a two-dimensional map, and actually it was a three-dimensional map.
and
And then we could build this big machine, and then we could sit in it just like Jodie Foster.
I
But
think yes,
but
that's
don't put
right.
a chair in it because the bolts will shake loose. Then we have this amazing experience.
But I thought of a good solution to the problem of the music being too loud in my ears. I thought of a good, the sign language wasn't working.
Yeah.
I thought, so say you're trying to communicate with a civilization that's 1,000 light years away.
Uh-huh.
All right, pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
So what's the trick? You have to send your radio message 1,000 years earlier than the time you want to speak.
Okay.
So what you do is you direct your radio transmission towards a wormhole. The wormhole spits it out 1,000 years ago, and then it takes 1,000 years to reach the other planet. How about that?
That's pretty cool. So it'll basically get there tomorrow.
Problem solved.
Just as good as Australia Post delivery service. Wonderful. Excellent. Oh, I can't believe the stuff we learn here in the Skeptic
the old
Tank.
Skeptic Tank.
Oh, yes.
Now,
the
what does that
wormhole.
have to do with skepticism? Well, not too much, but it's fun to speculate with science, isn't it?
That's right. Well, that's what science is all about. I mean, when people talk about all these psychics and clairvoyants and things, how amazing they are, when they're all actually completely full of, let's face it, crap, there's enough amazing stuff, like wormholes.
Yeah.
That is a mind-blowing thing without even
Absolutely.
having to think about being psychic or clairvoyant.
Why waste your time on all this
On
astrology
stupid stuff.
drivel? And
When science is already
when science has
blowing
shows us
people away.
the world far more fascinating than any psychic nightmare.
Psychic nightmare. Oh, I had one of those last night.
Did you?
Yeah, I really shouldn't have drank half that bottle of Jack Daniels. I really shouldn't have. Okay, I'm going to play another song. Brian McKnight's back at 1, and we'll be back in one song. And we're going to talk to
Professor Colin Keay, a astrophysicist or astronomer. He knows all the poop about the asteroid.
The asteroid that was supposedly going to hit us, but now it's about 40,000 trillion miles off.
And he also has a lot of information about atomic energy, which is quite interesting.
That'll be very fascinating too. Okay, well, let's see if have we got time to talk to you? Here we go.
Okay.
Here's Brian McKnight's back at 1. We'll be back in 1. See. Oh, there we are. Oh, it's a technical nightmare in here. And we're back in the Skeptic Tank. Is Colin on the line there?
He sure is.
Oh, there he is. Oh, goodness me, the technology miracles we're having here. It's nice to have you online. And Richard, well, say hello to you.
Hello, Colin.
Hello there.
Hello. Now, Colin, we've given you a call today on the Old Skeptic Tank because we'd like to discuss this recent kerfuffle with this comet, asteroid, meteor, whatever it was that was supposed to hit us. Wondering if you can shed any light on that.
Well, I can't recall the precise designation of it, but it was 2002 NY something, I believe. But that just indicates roughly when it was discovered. But when an object like this is discovered, the observations are all clustered together, and it's very difficult to get a good orbit from them. But people start predicting ahead, trying to figure out where it's going to be in X years' time and so on. And, of course, the predictions can get a bit hairy until more and more observations come in. And when a thing like this is discovered, then people around the world are alerted to it, and they take observations. They're all tied together on a computer, and they give increasingly accurate forecasts of where it's going to be.
Right.
Now, I believe this one was supposed to clobber us on about the 8th time round or something in about 2019.
Yep.
But now it is thought that it will miss us by several million miles.
Several million miles. So what is the... I mean,
Well, that's hardly anywhere in
of course
space,
not.
you know.
No, so we'll probably see it whizzing by us as we all sit there panicking. Is there any, like the margin of error that when it was, at the point of time that was recorded, what sort of margin of error would it be? Is it like so wide a margin of error that it's just ridiculous to even contemplate it? And did the media just jump on it too early, or what?
Oh, no, I think that it was fairly properly announced. I think they've learnt the hard way that they shouldn't keep these things secret.
Right.
Because if that happens, then conspiracy theories abound.
Oh, we love that. We love those on the Skeptic Tank. We love conspiracy theories.
Oh, yeah, well, we can have more than enough of them when you're talking about rogue asteroids.
Yeah, end of the world theories, yeah, for sure. So, okay, well, that's pretty good. So at the moment it's looking reasonably safe, but then we don't know if the next one's round the corner.
Well, that's exactly right. There are about half a dozen ones capable of destroying a large city hit the Earth every century.
Whoa.
And the last big one that was over land was in 1908.
Yeah?
And in Siberia.
Oh, yeah.
And had it come along about 5 hours later, it would have flattened St. Petersburg.
St. Petersburg?
And that would have been quite something. At any rate, there was another one up in the Brazilian jungle, which was not so well observed, but it devastated a large area. But the majority of them, of course, fall in the ocean because the Earth is three-quarters ocean.
Three-quarters ocean.
And so unless there's something right under them or near them, we don't know much about them.
Well, I guess that's lucky in a way that they fall in the ocean, unless they create a particularly big splash.
Tidal wave, that's right.
Oh, well, if they're big enough to create a very big splash, then that's really something to worry about.
Or unless you're sitting on the Royal Princess luxury cruiser watching a cabaret show of an Elvis impersonator, then it could be a big finish to the show.
Sure would. Sure would.
The other thing we were talking about just earlier, Colin, before you came on air, was SETI in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in your professional opinion, do you happen to think there's a good possibility for intelligent life out there in our own galaxy?
Oh, I don't know whether to say it's a good possibility or not. I don't think anybody can say that. But if you don't look, you don't find.
No, you don't. What about, I mean, the fact that there's so much life on Earth, I mean, obviously there was a few very felicitous, is that the word? No, a few very good conditions on this planet fortuitous was the word I was after, that made things happen. I mean, distance from the sun and levels of chemical mix in the atmosphere and everything. Even given those fortuitous circumstances, the very fact that life is so abundant and it seems it tends to happen so often, would you think that given even slightly similar circumstances, that life would happen? Yeah.
Well, I think the thing about life is that it's so adaptable.
Exactly.
And, that's why there's a lot of interest seeing if there's life on the Jovian planet satellite Europa. Now, that would be roughly equivalent to life under the Antarctic ice, something like that.
Right.
Terribly cold and so on.
Okay.
But then life has proved to exist under those conditions.
That's right. There are bacteria there, isn't it?
Bacteria can exist in the heart of a nuclear reactor.
Yeah. Oh, really? Goodness gracious me, that's ridiculous.
Yes.
There you go.
So that sounds like a...
radiophilus. It loves radiation.
Wow. So that is a fairly good argument for some form of life sort of spontaneously existing elsewhere.
Didn't I hear, Colin, that also that there was some bacteria on one of the probes that went to the moon or something like that, and then when they brought it back, or one of the Apollo...
Not clear on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I seem to remember someone...
They've mutated.
No, they didn't. But they speculate somebody sneezed or got some bacteria on something that went to the moon.
Well, that's all it would take.
They brought it back years later, or whatever, and when they cultured it, and it was still alive.
Still there.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
That doesn't surprise me somehow. I think bacteria is pretty hardy stuff.
Well, that's right. It wouldn't surprise any bacteriologist.
No.
Well, what do you expect?
All right. Well, thank you, Colin. It's been wonderful talking to you, and it's nice to have someone who actually knows what they're talking about on this show as well, because
gee, thanks, Stefan.
Oh, you're flattering me.
No, I'm really just, I'm just dumping on
Now,
Richard.
you can find out more about Colin and the Skeptics from visiting our website.
That's exactly right.
Wonderful. Collins, have you got your own bookshop called Colin's Bookshop? Sorry, bad
I
joke.
should con them into it, shouldn't I?
You should get naming rights on it. Okay, well, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Colin.
We'll have to talk to you again sometime.
That'll be lovely.
It's been wonderful talking to you.
Right, all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye now.
Well, it's nice to have you along once again.
Thanks, Steph. It's been great Skeptic Tank this week. Thanks
another
to
great one.
Professor Colin Keay for taking the call.
Yep. Genius.
Oh, very clever man.
Very clever man.
He's actually got a planetoid named after him.
He has not.
He discovered it. And
Really?
he got to name it.
What's it called? Planetoid Key.
It's called 16426, some long number K. Yeah,
Oh,
it
joy.
really is.
Oh, joy.
Anyway, you can find out all about everything.
Yep.
Everything that's ever been thought about by visiting www.skeptics.com.au, which is SKEPTICS.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My
Very good spelling.
spelling test.
You passed the spelling bee.
And visit our store. You can order our magazine, our CD, and T-shirts, and all sorts of things.
Yeah, and there's probably a link there that probably goes to your site, and which probably then links back to my site, and you go there and tell me how wonderful I am. That'll be a wonderful thing too. And then you can go back to NetFM, so it's a full circle thing.
Ooh.
We'll talk about that in the break.
That sounds like another
Everything
conspiracy.
is full circle on the net. Yes. Oh, well, I have to leave it now because we've got all sorts of things happening in the studio now, cleaners and, plumbers and things.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm going to say farewell from the Skeptic Tank. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Stefan.
And here's Tony DeWitt, or probably DeWitt, with Burning Up, as the asteroids tend to do. Thank God.
Now it's time once again to head back to those archives at TROVE, at trove.nla.gov.au, and associated searches or online resources from around the world, including Google newspapers, which I'm finding to be an excellent resource. Now, with the recent kerfuffle, as mentioned earlier in the show, the ongoing kerfuffle with the Westall 66 UFO case and the possibility it was a weather balloon, although this sends UFO believers into conniptions, it seems, I thought we'd look up today references to UFOs and weather balloons. I wonder what we'll find. I think we'll find cases, reports where comments are along the lines of the UFO crowd has dismissed reports of weather balloons or something like that, but we'll see. I'm not really sure. We're going to start in the pages of the Evening Independent, dated the 18th of October 1973, quite a while ago, and this comes to us from St. Petersburg, Florida. A story by the Associated Press. Weather balloons, rocket tests, UFO reports build up. Weather research balloons have prompted a new rash of reports of unidentified flying objects throughout the South, and UFO-bugged authorities are bracing for more reports. At least 2 different officers of the National Weather Service reported separate launchings of weather balloons yesterday. A huge balloon, 150 feet in diameter, was launched at Palestine, Texas, and authorities say it drifted over Mississippi at a constant 50,000-foot altitude. The Weather Service at Montgomery, Alabama, also reported launching a balloon at an altitude of about 85,000 feet. Many of the sightings occurred after the sun had gone down, but a spokesman at the National Weather Service in Macon, Georgia, explained the sun's light would reflect off the balloon long after dusk because of the high altitude of the object. Meanwhile, officials at the Eglin Air Force Base in Florida have announced high atmospheric rocket tests today and Friday and cautioned that the rockets could easily be mistaken for UFOs. Air Force officials said the rockets would release glowing clouds of red, green, blue, and yellow grasses. A spokesman said the colors in the sky will be visible as far south as Miami, as far west as Corpus Christi, Texas, as far north as Memphis, Tennessee, and along the eastern seaboard to Charleston, South Carolina. The rockets will be launched at 2-hour intervals beginning at 6:30 p.m. EDT today and continuing through Friday night. Despite official explanations, residents in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina continue to inundate local sheriff's offices with reports of UFOs. More than 1,000 cars jammed Interstate 10 near the border of Alabama and Mississippi last night when a Mobile, Alabama television station reported that it would attempt to film UFOs. The station said an unidentified woman psychic said UFOs would be in the area 16 miles west of Mobile. None were sighted. In Mississippi, objects were sighted over Jackson and Yazoo City. In Georgia, objects were spotted over Atlanta, Athens, Rome, and Macon, I'm not sure. Greenville, South Carolina, authorities were swamped with calls from individuals who said they saw an unexpected object in the sky. Sheriff Fred Diamond of Jackson County, Mississippi, called for a federal investigation into recent UFO sightings. He said,
"People down here are entitled to know what is going on. People are beginning to panic."
Well, imagine that, people mistaking objects for UFOs. And of course, as we know, the word or the term UFO in the popular imagination means alien spaceship. Maybe we should all just use the term alien spaceship when people mean alien spaceship. I'm sure there's an acronym there we can use. Of course, there's another point of view here, and this comes to us from the Daily Times, dated the 12th of March, 1989. And this newspaper comes to us from Northwest Alabama. UFO isn't weather balloon, a story accredited to NYT regional newspapers. Fife, and that's spelled Fyffe. Is it a flying saucer? An undercover government plane? A heavenly body? A weather balloon? An illusion? The famous Fife unidentified flying object is stumping skeptics and believers alike. Even a photograph taken last week by a Gainesville woman offered no explanation. The list of possible explanations narrowed this week when scientists said the UFO cannot be a scientific research balloon, commonly called a weather balloon. Betty Furman, an 18-year veteran of the project's office of the National Scientific Balloon Facility in Palestine, Texas, said,
"The last balloons we launched in Palestine were on September 15, 1988. They stay afloat no more than 12 hours. Then they self-deflate and are recovered. All our balloons have been retrieved."
Furman said the NSBF, a NASA contractor, through the New Mexico State University Physical Science Laboratory, is the world's only such balloon launching facility. The NSBF releases helium-filled plastic balloons, quote, larger than the Goodyear blimp, end quote, to carry atmospheric monitoring equipment to the stratosphere, 80,000 to 130,000 feet into the air. Data is collected and used in scientific research. John Carr, a scientist with NMSUB's lab, said Friday he was
not aware of any activity in Alabama.
Furman said an NSBF balloon had been launched in the correct time frame and was tracked by radar through the Fife area.
"It could not have been seen with the naked eye."
A telescope is required for viewing, she said, even if sunlight is reflected off the balloon.
"It could appear to be a star."
When viewed through a telescope, Furman said,
"When the sun hits it, it does have a whitish glow."
NSBF's balloons are lightened with one white blinking strobe that automatically shuts off during daytime. Unlike the UFO, balloons
don't move up and down.
She continued.
They reach maximum height in about 2 hours. Then they stay there until they deflate. They're launched in accordance with the jet stream in order to keep them over dry land. They travel with the wind and remain in no one area for long.
Furman said the jet stream is sometimes strong enough to carry NSBF balloons to Alabama. The deflated balloon and its load are located by a recovery team, or arrangements are made with the landowner to dispose of the polyethylene.
It tears easily,
she added.
But they are so large, they could be mistaken for a UFO.
The photo taken Thursday of the UFO shows a bright white light and an indiscriminate shape. The object is believed to be the same one spotted a month ago by local police in open country south of Fife. The photos, by Terry Baker, co-owner of the Weekly Post in Rainsville, show
a white light terribly brighter than the stars around it,
said Post owner Carrie Baker. So let's go to the year 1997. Barely 30 years ago, not quite 30 years ago, hard to believe, from the Gainesville Sun, 24th of June. And Gainesville is in Florida. A story by Bob Andorfer, a staff writer for The Sun. The sky's no limit for true UFO believers. John Oliver isn't too caught up in today's 50th anniversary of a seminal event in Unexplained Phenomena, the nation's first report of a sighting of, quote, flying saucers, end quote. That's what Idaho pilot and businessman Kenneth Arnold called a squadron of unidentified flying objects he saw near Mount Rainier in Washington on June 24, 1947. The phrase, along with an even more inscrutable encounter a few days later in Roswell, New Mexico, spawned a UFO culture that in half a century has convinced a goodly number of sky watchers that, as the saying goes, quote, we are not alone, end quote. But Oliver, a University of Florida astronomer who, over the years, has fielded more than 24 calls about local UFO sightings, has no plans to mark today's observance. He's looking instead to Independence Day, the holiday, not the movie about alien invaders.
On July 4th, the Mars Pathfinder lands on Mars,
said Oliver, an associate professor of astronomy who's spending the summer as a fellow at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California.
Around the lab, there's very little interest in the UFO anniversary. It's the plans for the Mars landing that's capturing everyone.
In fact, he said one of his colleagues grew up in Roswell, New Mexico, and was well into adulthood before he heard of the alleged UFO crash that in the summer of 47 put his hometown at ground zero on the extraterrestrial map. The colleague had never heard of, quote, the incident, end quote, the discovery near Roswell of debris from the crash of some type of object from the sky. After first confirming that it was a UFO, military authorities quickly revised their story and said it was just a weather balloon that had crashed. And in an attempt to dispel rumors to the contrary, the authorities also said no bodies of alien creatures had been recovered. The contradiction served only to make Roswell more mysterious and UFOs in general more intriguing. People started looking to the heavens, and if they saw something strange, didn't always trust the official explanations. They joined organizations like Mutual UFO Network, founded in Seguin, I think it's pronounced, Seguin, Seguin, Texas, in 1969, and which today has 5,000 members worldwide, with some 300 in Florida. In the Florida Panhandle community of Gulf Breeze, Project Awareness was established in 1993 to educate the public on UFO issues. The beach town made good headquarters for the project.
Gulf Breeze is still real active,
said Vicki Lyons, co-director of Project Awareness.
We had a big sighting last Thursday of a large disc-shaped object,
Since 1987, she said, Gulf Breeze has been the scene of
major sightings
of UFOs. It was particularly active from 1990 to 92, when people from all over the world travelled to Gulf Breeze to experience almost routine sightings of what they believed to be UFOs.
They're not as frequent now as they were in 1991 or 92, but we're still one of the hotspots in the country.
Lyons said.
You can go out to Shoreline Park any night of the week and see sky watchers out there.
She watches the night sky a couple of times a week, she said, after becoming a believer in 1990.
I had done it for about 3 years and never saw anything.
She said.
Then one night, I had this fabulous sighting of a football-shaped object that stopped dead in the sky, turned on its end, and then flew like that for a while. I could see lights going around, and it made no sound. Then, just as suddenly as it came, it turned a very bright white and just shot away. Now I'm a college-educated and logic-based person, but I was just astonished and in awe over this. I had never seen anything like it.
She described the Heaven's Gate cultists, who committed suicide earlier this year, ostensibly to return to an alien spaceship, as representing a fringe element of
ufologists. We looked at that like they were very confused people.
Lyons said.
We consider ourselves researchers who are trying to find answers. We just want to increase public awareness of UFOs.
Oliver's lack of interest in the Mount Rainier and Roswell anniversary stems from his belief that almost all unexplained visions in the night sky can be explained.
I don't remember dealing with serious UFO calls recently, but we have had periods on and off where we'd get a fair number of calls.
He said.
And never have I had one that seemed unexplainable to me.
Once, a retired jet fighter pilot called him from Cedar Key, describing in precise detail the phenomenon which he couldn't explain.
He and his son had been out the night before and, looking through binoculars to the western sky, saw the classical blinking light with many colors, an object he called wheels within wheels with rotating spokes.
Oliver said.
He was an experienced aviator and gave me exact directions when I asked where exactly they were looking.
Oliver checked a computer program that revealed that the object they saw actually was a brilliant star normally visible only in the southern hemisphere, but which that night could be seen in Cedar Key. The retired pilot checked the next night and confirmed Oliver's explanation. Another night, researchers at UF's Rosemary Hill Observatory near Bronson saw a cigar-shaped object hovering noiselessly above the facility. The observers saw small windows and even what appeared to be tiny beings inside. After some time observing the mysterious object, they looked through a smaller telescope that revealed the word Goodyear on the craft.
When they called Goodyear to confirm if it was in the location, the company's publicity officer said the blimp never flies at night, except for football games.
Oliver said.
But a story in the paper the next day reported that because of mechanical problems, the blimp had to be flown that night to get it to a football game in time.
Oliver said both sightings demonstrate how, in the absence of definite proof, people cannot be convinced that what they think they saw could be something else.
It isn't that people are lying, they're simply mistaken about what they're seeing.
He said.
It's this whole business of optical illusions. Things aren't always what you're seeing.
He didn't speculate, as he anticipates next month's real space encounter, what the Pathfinder might find on Mars. Well, here we go. Balloons and all sorts of things whizzing around the sky, sometimes being mistaken for alien spacecraft or who knows what. Or as one person said in the comments on the Westall 66 case, it must be demons disguised as aliens. A big thank you to Cap McLeod and Ross Blocher. And once again, today's finds only go to show that when you go to Trove, or a similar sort of archive like Google newspapers and so on, well, you'd never know what you might find. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast this week, and thank you very much for the fond memory, Stefan Sojka, the original co-host of the Skeptic Zone many years ago. We had such fun. For about a year, we did the Skeptic Tank in the studios there in downtown Sydney of NetFM. And it was wonderful to hear the voice of Professor Colin Keay, who died many years ago, sadly. And he was such a knowledgeable fellow. A big thank you to those people who support the Skeptic Zone via PayPal or Patreon. Your contributions means that I can cover, well, I'll be honest, I can cover most of the bills associated with the show. So it does help a lot. Without your contribution, I wouldn't cover any bills associated with the show, and there would be no show. And I'm sure the UFO people who comment on YouTube would think that was a good idea. We can't let them win. It's such a pity these people exist in a way, because they do their cause no help. Now, I don't know if aliens are visiting the Earth. As Carl Sagan said, as far as I know, a different alien civilization could be visiting the Earth every second Tuesday. But it is, in some quarters, it is an industry. It's a business. And some people have to keep this going to make an income, probably a much bigger income than a skeptical podcast. Maybe I should join the UFO crowd. What do you think, cats? Where are they? They're not here. But for this week, with those funny thoughts flying around my head, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for episodes and show notes with links going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone on Facebook, X, TikTok and YouTube by clicking the links at our homepage, together with links to support the show financially via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily those of the Skeptic Zone podcast or any other skeptical organisation.
Hello to those people who listen after the music for the dice game. Let's do it. I have a what have I have here? A D20, a 20-sided die. I'm going to roll it 3 times and then another time. And you use your psychic magical mystery tour powers to predict the number. And I'll do the same. I'll do it one at a time this time. Normally I predict all the numbers before we start. 1, 2, 3, 4. For the first number, I'm going to predict a D20, 14. Here we go. Here it comes. And the number is 3. Okay. Not off to a good start. Second roll of the die, 5. I wonder why I chose that. 5. Here we go. 6. Almost. You know, what are the odds? The third roll of the die, I'm going to predict number 9. Number 9. Here we go. 17. Yeah, it's not my day. All right, last time. The supplementary. Give it a good shake there. I'm going to predict number 10. Number 10. Right. Well, there you go. How about that? Number 10. Today's winning numbers, and only one for me, 3, 6, 17, and 10.